Good evening. Today is Monday, January 11th, and it's 1 month anniversary of our podcast. We'd like to thank all of our listeners and hope to bring even more entertaining content in the future. The markets were not happy today, and neither was I. Over the weekend, Trump has been banned from all social media accounts pretty much. And it's still kind of incredible to me, especially coming from the Soviet Union, that the president of the United States, who half the country voted for, could be so easily banned by the tech oligarchs. But at the same time, Trump and the Republicans have themselves to blame. They knew about this for the 2 years when they had power to do something about it, and they didn't. So no need to complain now. They said it's a free market. Let's create your own Twitter. So Parler did, but obviously that didn't help because Parler was also banned from iPhone, and Google also banned it, as well as Amazon. So what's next? You need to create your own phone. I don't even know if soon internet service providers wouldn't be banning Trump supporters from internet altogether. But anyway, maybe the markets didn't like it either because Nasdaq was down today, almost 1.4%, and lost 13,000. And S&P 500 was down a little over 0.5% after trading within Friday's range. And of course, the biggest loser for the day was Bitcoin. It was down as low as 30,000 from being high of 40. So it's 25% for a day, or over 28% since over the weekend. Um, on top of this, surprisingly, Tesla was down 8%, which of course I'm sure will be rectified tomorrow. As we all know, stocks only go up. It's a bull market, you know? Victor, what do you make of all these market movements today?
I felt the market was very strong. I likened it to someone you may not very familiar with, but he did retire to Florida. Ted Williams was the greatest baseball hitter in the history of baseball, and he batted over 400, and he never let a strike past him. He had eyes that could tell exactly where the ball was going. He could actually see the seams as it came to him. And I was very impressed that Bitcoin went back to 34,000. It's up up 8% in the last week. The good news here is that Victoria bought some more today.
Bitcoin or Tesla?
Bitcoin. That's a new one. And the S&P refused to crack the round number of 3,800.
Mm-hmm.
It went above and below about 5 or 6 times, and at 4 o'clock it was within a point of the round number, and it only closed at 37.92. To me, it was a very, very strong day. The market had been up 4 days in a row, and it's bound to go down sometime. And it couldn't, the low, it went below the low of yesterday at 31.76 or so, and then bounced right back. So we had bonds set another new low. This could be the fifth new low in a row, but regrettably, there won't be a yellow day today because the stock market was down. So we actually had a red day. And gold refused to go up. It stayed down almost 10% from the high. It's still a woke market. I was very impressed by the extremely poor sportsmanship. It's the one thing I know about. When you lose a game, the most hateful thing is to have the opponent make small talk about you, talk about how great they are and how bad you are. Almost every person who wins a victory knows that they try to be very complimentary to the owner. In squash, when someone beats you, the mandatory closing is you say, nice game, you played well, I was lucky. Then you say, how's Soros? And can I get you a drink? And everybody who wins varies a little from those lines. But here we have tremendous vengeance going on.
Yep.
And it's rather loathsome and puts everybody in a bad light. You would think that someone would advise Biden that he should show a little sportsmanship. And there was a nice article in the Post about how the number of deaths in Florida from COVID is about 25% less than New York, even though it has 2 million more population. One state has been in lockdown and the other has been leaving it to the voluntary action of their citizens who know what's in their interest and are applying social distance. What about you? What do you do when you go outside? You wear a mask?
No, I only wear a mask when I'm told to, so I don't create a confrontation. I hate masks. I think they make no sense. They don't work. If anything, masks are the ones who are responsible for that ultra strong virus strain that's going around. Because if you think about it, it's producing a natural selection in the virus that makes the stronger virus, the one that's more contagious, survive because people wear masks. So, I mean, I'm not saying this is definitively true, but that's one of the theories. So
I agree with you. I agree with you completely, however.
And it's not just Florida, Sweden as well. I posted a chart on Twitter today, which has total deaths in Sweden. And they also had no lockdowns and shutdowns. And
Of course, the total deaths in New York are vastly overstated. They count everyone who died with COVID rather than
right, or even next to COVID, probably, because the PCR test is vastly unreliable. It could be a piece of dead virus that is floating in the hospital walls where you took the test, and they amplify it enough times to show that you have the virus. But it could be not an active virus. They don't check for that.
How are things in Russia?
Well, I don't know about Russia, but in Belarus, a couple of my relatives all had COVID. It was no big deal. They were quarantining. They had sniffles, lost sense of smell, taste. It was milder than any normal flu. And now they're back and about, and basically common sense. If you are sick, stay at home. If you're not, go out. I don't understand how
And
the
then
most
the number
totalitarian
of deaths,
country in Europe is
the number of deaths in Belarus is
very low, but yeah, but based on anecdotal evidence, I don't know anybody who knows anybody who died from COVID. It's
to me a very telling incident. I got an urgent message from my partners today. I think Trump has resigned. So what? Yes, there was a notice on the government site
right,
that Trump had resigned. And it turned out it was a disgruntled employee who put
right.
that up. He couldn't resist
Right.
turning the
But
needle.
it's interesting. It's almost like the markets knew that this was a hoax because they didn't even move on that news at all much.
Well, there were other sites didn't carry it, but
Right.
there used to be something called the military industrial complex. Did you hear about that?
Yes, of course. Right. And
But
the
now,
politics is the entertainment arm of that complex.
now we have the industrial technology complex,
Indeed.
and it's very strong. And they take no prisoners now that the Democrats are in power, have a unified government.
Right. It's the same thing. When it comes to big tech, they're like, well, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want, ban anybody they want. Meanwhile, when it comes to a small business, a baker has to bake a cake regardless of your beliefs. If it's COVID, you have to shut down your company. But if you're a big conglomerate, Walmart, you're open. Amazon, you're open. Twitter, you can do whatever you want. But small companies have to obey the laws and dictates from the state, but the big companies do not.
Well, I say that the action of that disgruntled employee was typical of the 4 million federal employees that are part of the swamp that were working against Trump. So, from the time he got in, it's amazing that they are only going to impeach him twice, with everybody working against him and so on. The amazing thing is that you have to feel sorry for the guy, even though he dug his own grave by. And a lot of those people who engaged in the protest really believe strongly in America first. They believe that there had been a lot of chicanery and finally what else do you think?
Well, I think that media played a big role in that whole situation because they stopped providing the news a long time ago, especially during Trump's administration. Like Matt Taibbi said today, they said they start from the end. They like, how does our target demographic want to understand what just happened? And then they pick the words to match what the people want to hear. like, for example, Fox News uses term pro-Trump protesters, while New York and the Atlantic use the term insurrectionists. So it has become a war of words.
Well,
And now,
worse than that is when all the rioting was going on from
right,
the Democrats, and they closed down several states, and
Antifa, right,
they were tearing down the statues. And now
right,
all of a sudden they've become very law and order. They're thinking
right.
it's the worst.
They've been, right. They have been normalizing the protests for the whole year, starting from Portland, Antifa, and their own state that they created there. And they call them mostly peaceful protesters as they stood in front of the burning police stations.
But
So now,
of course, our listeners probably are not that eager to hear our
yes,
political views, but we had a big down Monday that's very bullish for Tuesday. So we should
so
have
let me, yeah.
we should have a good day tomorrow.
And let me ask you about those yellow squares that I just put on the screen, that we had 4 yellow days in a row that you said are very rare.
And five down days and bonds in a row.
Right.
Well, I tested that. You won't be surprised to hear, and it's not bearish for the stock market, strangely enough. A week later, the stock market is higher in 3/4 of the cases. So don't concern yourself about that until we get interest rates of 3-4%.
Mm-hmm.
There'll still be stimulus. There'll still be progressive money to bail out all businesses that are having problems. And personal income didn't even go down during the COVID. So with the trillions that they're applying now, it will keep things up. Okay, until tomorrow, thank you very much. Appreciate your insights. Always learn something by listening to you.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
my dear.
Good night.